Welcome to 30 Minds. On a steamy Chicago afternoon, Judge Leonard Grayson stormed out of his gleaming downtown law office, face twisted, after losing a case. 8-year-old Jamal Carter bounced a basketball nearby, unaware, until it slipped, smacking Leonard's polished shoes with coffee splatter. Enraged, Leonard slapped Jamal's cheek, spitting a vile racial slur. Phones flashed, capturing the cruelty. Leonard strutted off, smug, blind to Jamal's father being his boss, Victor Carter. That slap would unravel lives, but how far would the fallout stretch before we dive in? Let us know where you're watching from. If you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe for more gripping tales of truth. Unveiled, the late summer sun had barely dipped below Chicago's jagged skyline when the video of Judge Leonard Grayson slapping 8-year-old Jamal Carter erupted across the city's digital veins. By midnight, it had clawed its way through social media platforms, racking up 5 million views. Grainy footage looped endlessly on screens, Leonard's hand slicing through the air, the sharp crack against Jamal's small cheek, the venomous racial slur spat from his curled lips. Phones had caught every angle outside that gleaming downtown law office, and now, the internet churned with fury. Hashtags like #GraysonMustFall and #JusticeForJamal blazed across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, each post a spark igniting a wildfire of outrage. Comments flooded in, thousands every minute, some calling Leonard a monster, others clutching pearls over judicial integrity. The clip ricocheted from local blogs to national news feeds, a viral bomb detonating in the quiet of night. Chicago slept, but its digital underbelly roared awake, hungry for blood. Leonard Grayson woke at 6 o'clock in his Gold Coast condo, a sleek fortress of glass and steel overlooking Lake Michigan. His alarm buzzed, a grating chirp he silenced with a lazy swipe. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, glinting off marble counters and a framed photo of him shaking hands with the governor. He stretched, joints creaking from 52 years of rigid posture, and shuffled to the kitchen in silk pajamas. Coffee brewed, dark and bitter, as his phone vibrated incessantly on the counter. 30 missed calls, 100 texts, notifications piling up like unpaid bills. He smirked, assuming it was praise for yesterday's courtroom win, a tax fraud case he crushed with surgical precision. Sipping his espresso, he scrolled through the alerts, expecting flattery. Instead, his steel-blue eyes narrowed at the headlines, "Chicago Judge Slaps Child, Racist Outburst Caught on Tape." The video loaded, and there he was, towering over Jamal, hand raised, face contorted in rage. His stomach twisted, but only for a moment. "Liberal noise," he muttered, tossing the phone aside. "They'll forget by lunch." He straightened his tie in the mirror, smoothing graying hair, convinced his power made him untouchable. The world could scream, but he'd heard worse. Across town in Bronzeville, a modest 2-bedroom apartment hummed with morning chaos. Jamal Carter sat at a chipped wooden table, his small frame hunched over a bowl of soggy cereal. His cheek still stung, a faint red mark blooming where Leonard's palm had landed. The 8-year-old's dark eyes, usually bright with mischief, stared blankly at the milk swirling in loops. His mother, Kesha Carter, 34 and fierce, flipped pancakes at the stove, her braids swinging with each angry toss. She'd seen the video last night, forwarded by a cousin, and hadn't slept since. Jamal's voice broke the clatter of spatula against pan. "Mama, why that mean man hate me?" he asked, barely above a whisper, his small hand rubbing his cheek. Kesha froze, her throat tightening. She turned, forcing a smile that didn't reach her tired eyes. "He don't know you, baby. Some folks just carry hate like a sickness." She slid a pancake onto his plate, but Jamal only poked it with his fork, the question lingering unanswered. Kesha's heart ached, knowing this moment would scar deeper than his skin. Upstairs, Victor Carter, Jamal's father, stood in his cramped home office, a stark contrast to Leonard's luxury. At 45, Victor was the circuit court chief judge, a towering figure with a shaved head and a gaze that could silence a room. Papers cluttered his desk, case files stacked beside a photo of Jamal grinning at a Bulls game. He'd woken to the same viral storm, his phone lighting up with alerts from staff and friends. Clicking the video link, he watched Leonard's hand strike his son, heard the slur cut through the air. His fists clenched, knuckles whitening against his dark skin. Victor knew Leonard had supervised him for 3 years, tolerated his arrogance for the sake of court harmony. Now that smug face was a target. He replayed the clip, each viewing fueling a cold, calculated rage. This wasn't just an assault on Jamal, it was a slap to his family, his legacy. Victor dialed his assistant, voice steady as granite. Draft a suspension order for Grayson, effective immediately. No press release yet. He hung up, plodding in silence. Leonard thought he ruled the bench, but Victor held the gavel that mattered. Justice would come, quiet and sharp. Back in Gold Coast, Leonard's condo buzzed again, this time with a call from Judge Patricia Evans, a wiry woman with a penchant for gossip and a shared disdain for bleeding hearts. He answered, expecting solidarity. "You see this nonsense?" he grumbled, pacing past his lake view. Patricia's voice crackled through. "It's everywhere, Len, 5 million views. They're calling you a bigot." He snorted, adjusting his cufflinks. "Let them whine. I've got tenure, precedent. They can't touch me." She hesitated, then added, words out, "You're suspended." Carter's orders. Leonard's smirk faltered, coffee cup pausing midair. "Victor? That soft-spoken fool." He laughed, but it sounded hollow. "He's bluffing. I'll bury him in appeals." Hanging up, he grabbed his briefcase, still dismissing the storm. Suspension was a slap on the wrist. He'd wiggle free by dinner. Meanwhile, the internet churned darker. By 9 o'clock, the video hit 10 million views, comments spiraling into a cesspool. "Kid deserved it, running wild," one user typed, racking up likes. "Typical thug behavior," another sneered, pinning Jamal's innocence to a stereotype. Kesha scrolled through it all on her cracked phone screen, her shift at the hospital looming. Each word stabbed deeper than Leonard's hand. She kissed Jamal's forehead, sending him to school with a backpack heavier than his 8 years should carry. "You're enough, baby," she whispered, but doubt gnawed at her. The world saw her son as a threat, not a child. She locked the door, praying he'd come home whole. Victor sat in his courthouse chambers, a fortress of oak and leather, finalizing Leonard's suspension. The order was crisp: indefinite leave, no hearings, no access. He signed it with a flourish, imagining Leonard's face crumpling. By 10 o'clock, it was filed, a quiet victory for Jamal. Victor leaned back, exhaling, believing he'd struck first. Jamal would heal, Leonard would fade. But the peace shattered at noon. A courthouse clerk, loyal to Leonard, leaked the suspension to a far-right blog. The headline screamed, "Black judge targets white colleague in reverse racism ploy." Within hours, it spread, twisting Victor's justice into oppression. Talk radio pounced, hosts railing against woke tyranny. Leonard's phone lit up again, this time with allies cheering his martyrdom. He grinned, reclining in his condo, sipping bourbon. "Let Carter play his game," he muttered. "I'll burn his house down." First, the leak flipped the script. Victor's office flooded with calls, reporters demanding statements. He stared at the blog post, jaw tight, realizing Leonard had allies dirtier than he'd guessed. Kesha picked Jamal up from school, finding him quieter than ever, his basketball untouched. "They said I'm trouble," he mumbled, recounting classmates' parting, online hate. She hugged him, fury simmering. Victor called her from the courthouse, voice low. "I suspended him." Kesha thought it'd end this. She snapped back, "It's bigger now, Vic. They're coming for us." He nodded into the phone, unseen, resolve hardening. Leonard wasn't just a judge, he was a hydra head, sprouting with every cut. Social media kept churning, the video now at 15 million views. Protests brewed downtown, signs demanding Leonard's head, but counterposts surged, defending him as a law and order hero. Jamal's slap became a battleground, race lines drawn in pixels. Leonard watched it unfold from his balcony, city lights twinkling below. He dialed Ray, a crooked cop he bailed out years ago. "Need a favor," he said, voice smooth as oil. "That kid's family's trouble. Stir the pot." Ray grunted assent, already plotting. Leonard hung up, smirking. Suspension? A hiccup. He'd crush Victor's world, starting with the boy. The bourbon burned his throat, victory tasting sweeter than justice. In Bronzeville, night settled heavy. Jamal slept fitfully, cheek pressed to a tear-damp pillow, dreams haunted by Leonard's sneer. Kesha sat by his bed, phone glowing with hate-filled comments. Victor paced downstairs, suspension order in hand, a hollow wind mocked by the leak. He thought one move would checkmate Leonard, protect his son. Instead, the board flipped, pieces scattering. The city pulsed outside, alive with rage and division, each heartbeat promising worse to come. Leonard's slap wasn't just a moment, it was a fuse lit and sizzling toward an explosion none could predict. Victor clenched the paper, vowing to fight harder. Jamal's small snores fueled him, a reminder of what was at stake. The Chicago Circuit Courthouse loomed over the loop like a gray monolith, its stone facade cold and unyielding under a late summer sky. Inside, the air buzzed with the hum of justice, or what passed for it. Victor Carter sat in his chambers on the 10th floor, a cavern of oak paneling and leather-bound law books, his desk buried under case files. His suspension order for Leonard Grayson lay signed and sealed, a crisp sheet of retribution delivered at dawn. By 8 o'clock, it was official. Leonard's cases reassigned, his courtroom locked, his authority stripped. Victor leaned back in his chair, a rare flicker of satisfaction crossing his stern face. He'd struck fast, a clean blow to protect Jamal. The slur still echoed in his mind, his son's small voice asking why he was hated. This was step one, he thought, a shield raised against a racist bully. But the courthouse had other plans, and Leonard wasn't one to slink away quietly. At 9 o'clock, Leonard barreled through the marble halls, polished shoes clicking like a metronome of fury, his tailored suit hugged his broad frame, tie askew from a sleepless night of plotting. He'd seen the suspension email, a curt directive from Victor's office, and rage boiled in his chest. He didn't knock when he reached the chief judge's door, shoving it open with a force that rattled the hinges. Victor looked up, unfazed, his dark eyes locking onto Leonard's flushed face. "You think you can bury me, Carter?" Leonard spat, voice sharp as broken glass. "This is bias, plain and simple. I'll appeal, drag your name through the mud." Victor rose slowly, 6 feet of quiet menace, hands clasped behind his back. "So, you slapped my son," he said, each word deliberate, cutting deeper than a shout, called him a slur on a public street. "You're lucky it's just suspension." Leonard's smirk froze, eyes widening as the pieces clicked. Jamal's father, his boss, the room spun for a split second, but he recovered, leaning forward, palms slamming the desk. "I didn't know he was yours," he lied, voice oily with fake remorse, "a mistake, heat of the moment. Let's settle this internally." Victor's gaze didn't waver. "Get out," he said, pointing to the door. Leonard straightened, adjusting his cufflinks, a predator sizing up prey. He'd play the game, but not Victor's way. By noon, Leonard was back in his own office, a smaller space 3 floors down, now a war room. He dialed Judge Harold Clean, a grizzled veteran with a taste for bourbon and a hatred for progressive nonsense. Harold answered, gruff and eager. "Heard Carter canned you," he rasped, "what's the move?" Leonard paced, phone pressed to his ear. "He's Jamal's father, Hal, thinks he's untouchable. I need dirt." Harold chuckled, a dry, rattling sound. "Soft on crime, that one, always pushing rehab over jail. We'll spin it." Within hours, whispers slithered through the courthouse grapevine. Victor was a bleeding heart, too weak for the bench, using his power to punish a good judge over a personal grudge. Leonard's allies, a clique of old guard justices, nodded in back rooms, their murmurs growing into a plan. They'd hit Victor where it hurt, and Jamal would be the collateral. Across town, Jamal shuffled into Bronzeville Elementary, his navy backpack sagging on his slight shoulders. The school smelled of chalk and cafeteria grease, a familiar comfort, until today. Kids whispered as he passed, eyes darting to his cheek, still faintly red from Leonard's slap. His teacher, Mrs. Ellis, a stern woman with gray-streaked hair, called him to her desk before recess. "Jamal," she said, voice clipped, "you're suspended, videos causing a ruckus, parents are complaining." His stomach dropped, small hands twisting together. "But I didn't do nothing," he protested, voice trembling. She sighed, avoiding his gaze. "Rules are rules. Go home." Kesha got the call at her hospital shift, her nurse's scrubs damp with sweat from a hectic morning. She raced to the school, fury blazing in her brown eyes. "He's 8, she snapped at Principal Gibbs, a balding man with a pinched face. "Some judge hits him and you punish my boy?" Gibbs shrugged, hands spread. "He's a distraction. Kids say he's trouble." Kesha's fists clenched, nails digging into palms. Trouble, the word stung, a racist echo of the online hate she'd scrolled through last night. She fought, voice rising, citing policy and rights. By 2 o'clock, Gibbs relented, reinstating Jamal. She hugged her son tight in the hallway, his small frame shaking. "You're back tomorrow, baby," she whispered. Jamal nodded, a flicker of relief in his eyes. He thought it was over, that school was safe again, but Leonard wasn't done. Back at the courthouse, he sat with Harold and Patricia in a dimly lit conference room, blinds drawn against prying eyes, papers littered the table, coffee cups stained with hours of scheming. "Carter's suspension won't stick," Leonard said, tapping a pen against his knuckles. "We countersue, abuse of power, make him the villain." Patricia, her wine-red nails glinting, smirked. "Public split already, that leak worked wonders." Harold scribbled notes, grinning. "Claim he provoked you, Len, kid bumped you, you reacted, self-defense." Leonard's lips curled, a wolfish gleam in his eyes. By 3 o'clock, they filed the suit, a 10-page screed accusing Victor of racial bias against a dedicated white judge. It hit the clerk's desk as Victor reviewed dockets, oblivious. The countersuit landed online by 4 o'clock, courtesy of Harold's nephew at a sleazy news site. "Chief Judge targets innocent colleague over son," the headline blared, twisting Jamal's pain into Leonard's triumph. Social media erupted again, the hashtag Grayson must fall crowd drowned out by a wave of hashtag Carter is corrupt posts. Leonard leaned back in his chair, sipping scotch from a hidden flask, savoring the chaos. Victor thought he'd won with a suspension, this was checkmate. Victor's phone buzzed at 5 o'clock, his assistant's voice tight. "You see the suit?" He pulled it up, scanning the lies, provocation, bias, unprofessional conduct. His jaw tightened, a vein pulsing in his temple. Leonard hadn't just dodged the suspension, he turned it into a weapon. Victor called Kesha, pacing his chambers. "They're suing me," he said, voice low, "Grayson's crew." She cursed loud enough to startle a coworker at the hospital. "For what?" "Protecting Jamal." Victor sighed, staring out at the city's skyline, now tinged orange with dusk. "For daring to fight back." He hung up, mind racing. Leonard's allies were a machine, oiled with privilege and spite. This wasn't just about Jamal's slap anymore, it was war. Jamal sat on his bedroom floor, basketball idol beside him, the day's sting lingering. Kesha had brought him home triumphant after the school fight, but his small victory felt fragile. He'd heard the principal's trouble label, seen classmates' stares. Downstairs, Kesha cooked dinner, pots clanging as she vented to a friend on speakerphone. They suspended my baby, 'cause some judge can't control himself, she said, voice thick with anger. Now Vic's getting sued. This ain't right. Jamal hugged his knees, the red mark on his cheek a quiet ache. He thought school was his win, a return to normal, but the world outside buzzed with new threats, louder and meaner than before. Leonard ended his day at a Loop bar, a mahogany den where judges swapped war stories. Harold and Patricia flanked him, toasting the countersuit's launch. Carter's finished, Harold slurred, bourbon sloshing. Public will eat him alive. Leonard grinned, swirling his drink. He underestimated me. Big mistake. The TV above the bar flickered to the viral video, Jamal's shocked face frozen mid-slap. Leonard didn't flinch, raising his glass. To justice, he said, voice dripping with irony. His allies laughed, a harsh chorus echoing off wood-paneled walls. Victor's suspension had been a jab. This was a knockout punch, or so Leonard thought, blind to the storm brewing beyond his smug bubble. The courthouse clock struck 6, its chime swallowed by city noise. Victor stood at his window, suit jacket off, sleeves rolled up. The countersuit wasn't just an illegal move, it was a declaration. Leonard's crew wouldn't stop at him, they'd target Jamal, Kesha, everything he loved. He clenched his fists, resolve hardening like steel. What would Leonard do next to twist the knife? Drop a comment with number 1 if you think Leonard's countersuit is a cowardly power grab, or number 2 if you believe Victor should have seen it coming. Like and subscribe to catch how this battle explodes. Will Leonard's next move break the Carters, or ignite a fire he can't control? The Chicago skyline glittered under a bruised dusk as news vans clogged the loop, their satellite dishes piercing the air like spears. Inside glass-walled studios, anchors dissected Leonard Grayson's countersuit against Victor Carter with surgical glee. Channel 5's evening broadcast led with a slick graphic, Judge fights back, racial bias or family feud? The anchor, a polished blonde with a voice like polished steel, leaned into the camera. Federal Judge Leonard Grayson claims Chief Judge Victor Carter abused his power, suspending him over a personal grievance. Sources say Grayson's just a man defending his honor. Clips rolled, Leonard's slap against Jamal Carter's cheek, now framed as a reaction to a reckless child. The countersuit's lies took root, painting Leonard as a victim of Victor's vendetta. By 7, the story hit national airwaves, CNN and Fox dueling with hot takes. Social media split wider, hashtag Carter is corrupt trending alongside hashtag Grayson must fall, a digital civil war spilling into the streets. Victor stood in his Bronzeville living room, a modest space with creaky floors and faded wallpaper, the TV's glow casting shadows on his stern face. Kesha muted the broadcast, her nurse's hands trembling with rage. "They're calling you the bad guy, Vic," she said, voice sharp as a scalpel. "That slime hit our boy, and now he's the martyr." Jamal sat cross-legged on the couch, clutching a worn basketball, his small frame dwarfed by the cushions. The red mark on his cheek had faded to a dull pink, but his eyes, wide and searching, followed every word. Victor paced, suit jacket slung over a chair, his tie loosened like a noose undone. "They twisted it," he growled, fists clenching. "Leonard's got friends in high places. This ain't about truth." Outside, the night pulsed with distant sirens, a city teetering on edge. Kesha glanced at Jamal, then back at Victor. "What's next?" she asked, dread curling in her gut. He didn't answer, staring at the muted TV where Leonard's smug face flashed again. By 8 o'clock, the streets outside the Carter two-story home churned with chaos. A white supremacist group, the Sons of Liberty, had caught wind of the countersuit's spin. 30 men in black hoodies and combat boots marched down the block, boots stomping asphalt in rhythm with their chants, "No black tyranny, Grayson stands tall," they bellowed, voices roaring with hate. Signs bobbed above their heads, "Justice for Leonard," scrolled in red paint like blood. Jamal peeked through the blinds, his small hands shaking, the basketball forgotten on the floor. "Mama, who are they?" he whispered, voice quaking. Kesha yanked him back, slamming the blinds shut. "Nobody, baby," she lied, her heart hammering. Victor grabbed his phone, dialing a private security firm he'd used for court threats. "Need a team at my address now," he barked, voice steady despite the sweat beading on his brow. Within 20 minutes, 4 burly guards in tactical vests rolled up in a black SUV, dispersing the mob with shouted commands and flashlight beams. The chants faded, replaced by crickets and the hum of a retreating pickup truck. Jamal clung to Kesha, her arms a fortress around him. "They're gone," she murmured, stroking his hair. He nodded, relief washing over his small face. Safety felt real again, if only for a breath. Leonard watched the protest unfold from his Gold Coast condo, a glass of bourbon in hand, the city's lights sprawling below like a conquered kingdom. The TV blared Fox News, a pundit praising his courage against woke oppression. His phone buzzed with texts from Harold Klein and Patricia Evans, his courthouse cronies. "Sons of Liberty did good," Harold typed. "Keeps the pressure on." Leonard smirked, sipping his drink, the amber liquid burning his throat. The countersuit had flipped the narrative, but the mob was his ace. Victor's suspension had stung, this was a gut punch. He scrolled X where #CarterIsCorrupt posts outnumbered the outrage now, his slap fading into a footnote. His allies were peeling away from Victor too, whispers of "soft judge" poisoning the judicial ranks. Leonard's smugness cracked though when a new hashtag crept up, #Grayson's racist rulings. Someone had dug into his past, leaking case files online, old decisions dripping with bias, 3 black defendants denied bail for minor thefts, a white CEO let off with a slap for embezzlement. The posts gained traction, 10,000 retweets by 10 o'clock. Kesha saw it first, hunched over her phone in the kitchen, Jamal asleep upstairs under a Spider-Man blanket. Her shift had ended, but exhaustion couldn't dull her fight. She'd found the leaks on a local activist's blog, grainy PDFs of Leonard's rulings, each one a slap worse than the one Jamal took. "Vic, look at this," she called, voice urgent. He lumbered in, tie off now, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He scanned the screen, jaw tightening as he read. 10 years back, he muttered, sent a black kid to juvie for a candy bar, let a white guy walk for assault. Kesha's eyes blazed. "We've got him." She uploaded the files to X herself, fingers flying over the cracked screen, tagging every news outlet she could. By midnight, #Grayson's racist rulings hit 50,000 retweets, a counter-protest brewing downtown, signs read, "Expose Grayson," voices chanting for his head. Victor watched from the window, security lights glinting outside, a flicker of hope in his chest. Leonard's mob had failed, this could turn the tide. Leonard's bourbon paused midair as he refreshed his feed, the hashtag surge a cold splash on his victory. His allies texted panic. "This is bad, Len," from Patricia. "Lay low," from Harold. He slammed the glass down, amber sloshing onto marble, his smugness fracturing into fury. The leaks weren't just noise, they were a spotlight on his rotten core. He dialed Ray, the crooked cop, voice low and venomous. "Carter's wife stirring shit. Shut it down." Ray grunted, on it, already plotting. Leonard paced, the city's glow mocking him now. He doubled down, funding the Sons of Liberty with a discreet wire from a shell account, $5,000 for chaos. The mob's retreat wasn't defeat, it was a warning shot. He needed something bigger, something to break the Carter's spine. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the street outside Victor's home lay silent, security guards posted at each corner, their vests dark against the night. Jamal slept deeper now, the day's terror fading into dreams of basketball courts. Kesha dozed on the couch, phone still glowing with protest updates, her leaks a wildfire spreading beyond her grasp. Victor sat at the kitchen table, a cold coffee beside him, staring at the countersuit papers. The mob's retreat felt like a win, Jamal safe behind locked doors and armed men. He exhaled, shoulders easing, believing the worst had passed. Then the air split with a deafening boom. Glass shattered somewhere outside, flames licking up from the driveway where Victor's sedan sat parked. A Molotov cocktail hurled from a speeding truck had turned the car into a torch, orange tongues clawing the night sky. Jamal jolted awake, screaming, "Mama!" Kesha bolted upright, racing to him, her pulse a drumbeat of panic. Victor grabbed a fire extinguisher, bursting outside with the guards, foam hissing against the blaze. The truck's taillights vanished around a corner, Sons of Liberty laughter echoing in its wake. Neighbors spilled onto porches, phones flashing, recording the inferno. Kesha clutched Jamal in the doorway, his small body trembling, eyes wide with terror. "They're back," he whimpered, cheek pressed to her chest. She shushed him, voice cracking. "We're okay, baby." Victor stomped back inside, extinguisher empty, soot streaking his face. The car was a husk, metal twisted and smoking, a message burned into reality. "This is Leonard," Kesha demanded, voice roaring. Victor nodded, fists shaking. "His dogs." The guards swept the block, finding a spray-painted slur on the garage, "Black Tyrant." Police arrived at 2, lights flashing, but their report was limp. "Probably kids," an officer shrugged, notepad barely touched, "prank gone wrong." Victor's glare could have melted steel. "Prank," he snapped, "that's my family." The cop walked off, uninterested, the system's bias a quiet kick to the gut. Leonard watched the firebombing clip hit X at 3 o'clock, a shaky video from a neighbor's phone, flames dancing in the dark. He leaned back in his condo, a fresh bourbon in hand, lips curling. "Good work," he texted Ray, who tipped off the Suns. The Carters' safety net was ash now, their hope torched. News picked it up by 4, but the spin was soft, vandalism at Judge's home, no mention of Leonard or the mob. His allies stayed silent, letting the chaos simmer. Victor's suspension, the countersuit, the mob, all pieces in play, but the leaks gnawed at him. Kesha's counterattack a splinter he couldn't pull. He'd break them yet, he vowed, glass clinking against his teeth. The city slept uneasily, its streets a battleground, the Carters' small win incinerated in a blaze of hate. The south side bar stank of stale beer and cigarette smoke, a dim hole tucked between a porn shop and a shuttered laundromat. Leonard Grayson sat in a corner booth, his tailored suit clashing with the peeling vinyl seats, a tumbler of cheap whiskey sweating in his hand. Across from him slouched Ray Dixon, a crooked cop with a buzz cut and a scar snaking down his left cheek, his uniform swapped for a black hoodie. The firebombing of Victor Carter's car had hit the news 2 nights ago, a satisfying blaze that left Leonard smirking, but Kesha's leaks of his racist rulings gnawed at him like a splinter under a nail. "Carter's family's still fighting," Leonard said, voice low, eyes glinting in the bar's flickering light. "That wife of his digging up my past. I need them quiet." Ray leaned forward, cracking his knuckles, a grin splitting his weathered face. "Got an idea. The kid, Jamal. Frame him, something small enough to scare him." Leonard sipped his whiskey, the burn fueling his nod. "Do it. 500 now, 5 more when it sticks." He slid an envelope across the table, cash bulging under the flap. Ray pocketed it, already plotting, the deal sealed in the bar's grimy shadows. By noon the next day, Chicago's west side simmered under a relentless sun, asphalt shimmering with heat. Jamal Carter trudged home from Bronzeville Elementary, his navy backpack bouncing, basketball tucked under his arm. The school reinstatement Kesha had fought for felt like a win, his small world steadying after the firebombing's chaos. He hummed a tune, sneakers scuffing the sidewalk, oblivious to Ray watching from a dented sedan parked across the street. Ray waited until Jamal passed a brick wall tagged with old graffiti, then moved fast. He slipped out, a can of red spray paint in hand, and jammed it into Jamal's backpack, unzipping and rezipping in seconds. A quick call to a patrol buddy, suspicious kid near vandalism, and sirens wailed within minutes. 2 cops screeched up, lights flashing, pinning Jamal against the wall. "Hands up," one barked, a beefy white guy with a buzz cut like Ray's. Jamal froze, eyes wide, the basketball dropping with a dull thud. "I didn't do nothing," he stammered, voice quaking as they yanked the can from his bag. "This yours?" the cop snarled, shaking the paint. Jamal shook his head, tears welling, but they cuffed him anyway, wrists swallowed by metal too big for an 8-year-old. Neighbors peeked from windows, phones out, but no one stepped in, fear trumping outrage. Kesha got the call at the hospital mid-shift, her scrub stained with coffee from a spilled mug. "Your son's in custody," the officer said, voice flat. She dropped the phone, sprinting out, heart pounding like a war drum. Victor met her at the precinct, his suit rumpled from a rush drive, fury etched in every line of his face. Jamal sat in a holding room, small and hunched on a metal bench, cuffs off but eyes red from crying. "Daddy," he whimpered, leaping into Victor's arms. Victor held him tight, whispering, "You're safe now," while Kesha glared at the desk sergeant. "Why is my boy here?" she demanded, voice slicing through the precinct's hum. Caught with paint near a tagged wall, the sergeant shrugged, barely looking up. "Likely story." Victor snapped, spotting Ray lingering by a vending machine, smirking. He paid the $50 bail, a petty sum for a petty lie, and took Jamal home. The family huddled in their Bronco, windows up against the world. Jamal clung to Kesha, cheek pressed to her chest, believing the nightmare was over. Victor wasn't done. Back in Bronzeville, he sat at his kitchen table, Jamal asleep upstairs, Kesha brewing coffee to steady her shaking hands. "This ain't random," he said, voice low, pulling up school security footage on his laptop. A favor from a clerk got him the tape, grainy but clear, Ray slipping the can into Jamal's bag, a shadow moving with purpose. "That's him," Kesha hissed, pointing at the screen, her nail tapping Ray's blurred face. "Grayson's dog." Victor nodded, jaw tight, and sent the video to Nadia Price, a sharp lawyer friend with a knack for shredding lies. By morning, Nadia stormed the precinct with the footage, her heels clicking like gunfire on tile. "Planted evidence," she declared, slamming the tape on the desk. "Sergeant, counter-dismiss it, or I'll sue you into next year." The sergeant squirmed, called a supervisor, and within hours the vandalism charge vanished, a misunderstanding scribbled into the log. Jamal woke to Kesha's smile, her voice soft. "You're free, baby. We beat him." He grinned, small and fragile, thinking the fight was won. The setup exposed, Leonard got the news at noon, lounging in his Gold Coast condo, the city's gleam mocking his mood. Ray texted, "Charges dropped, Carter's got cameras." Leonard's bourbon glass cracked in his grip, shards cutting his palm, blood mixing with amber on the marble floor. "Useless," he snarled, hurling the phone at the wall, plastic splintering. The countersuit was holding, the firebombing had rattled them, but this flop stung. Victor's family wouldn't break. Kesha's leak still burning through X, now at 100,000 retweets. He paced, blood dripping, mind racing. The setup was too small, too sloppy. He needed a sledgehammer, not a pinprick. Ray called, voice gruff. "I'll fix it. Give me a day." Leonard sneered, "You've got 12 hours, and hung up, plotting darker moves, his smugness replaced by a predator's hunger. At 3 o'clock, Kesha took Jamal to the park, a rare break from the storm, his basketball bouncing on cracked pavement. Victor stayed home, poring over legal briefs, the school footage a lifeline he clutched. The day felt lighter, Jamal's laughter echoing as he dribbled. Kesha's guard easing for the first time in days, she texted Victor, "He's smiling again, a small victory in the war." But at 4, Ray struck. He tailed them from Bronzeville, waiting until Jamal ran to the swings, Kesha distracted by a call. In a blur, Ray snatched Jamal from behind, a gloved hand over his mouth, dragging him to a black van parked in an alley. Jamal kicked, muffled screams lost in the wind, his ball rolling into the grass. Ray tossed a note onto the pavement, scrolled in red marker, "Drop the case or he's gone." Kesha turned, phone slipping from her hand, shattering on concrete as she saw the empty swings. "Jamal," she screamed, voice raw, sprinting to the note, legs buckling as she read it. Park-goers froze, some dialing 911, others filming, but the van was gone, dust settling in its wake. Victor's phone rang at 4:15, Kesha's sobs crackling through. "They took him, Vic," she choked, reading the note aloud. "He bolted from the house, keys jangling, heart a jackhammer in his chest. Police swarmed the park by 4:30, yellow tape flapping in the breeze, but their questions were cold. Kids run off sometimes," an officer muttered, notepad idle. "This ain't no runaway," Kesha snapped, shoving the note in his face, "it's that judge." The cop shrugged, eyes sliding away, racism a silent wall. Victor arrived, pulling Kesha into his arms, her tears soaking his shirt. "We'll find him," he vowed, voice steel over panic, but his eyes scanned the empty park, dread pooling. The setup had been a feint, this was Leonard's real blow, a kidnap ripping their small win to shreds. Ray drove the van west, Jamal bound and gagged in the back, small body bouncing on a filthy mattress. The 8-year-old's eyes darted, terror choking his breaths, the gag wet with spit and tears. Ray grinned into the rearview, humming off-key, the $500 burning a hole in his pocket. He dumped the kid in a warehouse, waiting for Victor to crack. Leonard's text buzzed, "Keep him scared." Ray nodded to himself, turning up the radio, static crackling over a country tune, the city blurred past, a maze of concrete and shadows, Jamal's world shrinking to the van's rusty walls. Back at the park, Kesha clutched the basketball Jamal had dropped, its worn leather a lifeline. Victor barked at the cops, check Grayson's crew, but they dawdled, radios buzzing with excuses. The note crumpled in his fist, red ink smearing a taunt he couldn't unsee. Nadia arrived, her briefcase a weapon, promising to sue the precinct blind. "They'll move him," she said, voice calm but fierce. Kesha nodded, wiping her face, resolve hardening. Jamal's freedom had been a mirage, Leonard's hate was a tidal wave crashing harder with each strike. What would it take to get their boy back? Comment number 1 if you think Leonard's gone too far with this kidnapping, or number 2 if you believe Victor's next move will outsmart him. Like and subscribe to see this fight unfold. Will Victor save Jamal, or will Leonard's next twist drown them all? The abandoned warehouse squatted on Chicago's west side, a crumbling relic of rusted steel and shattered windows, its walls tagged with faded gang signs. Inside, the air hung thick with dust and the tang of oil, a single bulb swinging from a frayed cord casting jagged shadows. Jamal Carter lay on a filthy mattress in the corner, wrists bound with zip ties, a strip of duct tape plastered over his mouth, his small chest heaved, muffled sobs leaking through the gag, his 8-year-old frame dwarfed by the cavernous space. Ray Dixon paced nearby, boots scuffing concrete, a burner phone pressed to his ear. "Kid secure," he grunted, voice rough as gravel, "what's the play?" Leonard Grayson's reply crackled through, sharp and cold from his Gold Coast condo, "Break Carter, tell him to resign on live TV, or the boy stays gone." Ray nodded, pocketing the phone, then crouched beside Jamal, yanking the tape off with a cruel rip. Jamal gasped, tears streaking his dirt-smudged face, his voice a whisper. "I want my mama." Ray smirked, leaning close, breath sour with tobacco. "Your daddy's got to quit his fancy job first. Kid, cry all you want, ain't nobody coming." He rebound Jamal's mouth tighter this time, and stepped back, lighting a cigarette, smoke curling into the dimness. Victor Carter stood in his Bronzeville kitchen, the clock ticking past 5 o'clock, each second a hammer blow to his skull. Kesha sat at the table, Jamal's basketball clutched in her lap, her eyes red-rimmed but blazing with fury. The ransom note from the park lay crumpled beside her, its red ink a taunt burned into their minds, "Drop the case or he's gone." Victor's phone buzzed, an unknown number flashing, he answered, voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "Carter," he said, bracing himself. Ray's voice slithered through, low and mocking. "Your boy with me. Wants his mommy real bad. Resign on TV, live tonight, or he don't come back. Victor's grip tightened, knuckles whitening. Proof, he demanded. A pause, then Jamal's muffled whimper crackled over the line, a sound that punched through Victor's chest. Daddy, the boy sobbed, faint and broken before the call cut dead. Kesha's head snapped up, her gasp filling the room. That's him, she choked, leaping to her feet. Victor slammed the phone down, pacing, mind racing. They've got him, he said, voice raw. Grayson's behind it. Kesha lunged for her own phone, dialing Nadia Price, their lawyer, her fingers shaking but precise. They took Jamal, she blurted when Nadia picked up. Ransom. Vic's got to resign on TV. Nadia's voice came fast, calm steel cutting through panic. Don't move yet, we need leverage. Victor stopped pacing, staring at the wall where a photo of Jamal grinned from a Bulls game, his son's joy now a ghost. No time, he said, turning to Kesha, I'll do it. Get him back. She nodded, tears spilling, knowing the cost. Victor called Channel 7, a local station hungry for scoops, his judicial clout cutting through red tape. By 6 o'clock, a news van screeched into their driveway, cameras rolling as Victor stepped onto the porch, tie straightened, face carved from stone. The anchor, a wiry man with slicked hair, thrust a mic forward. Judge Carter, what's this about? Victor stared into the lens, city lights glinting behind him, and spoke, voice steady but hollow. Effective immediately, I resign as Chief Judge of the Circuit Court. My son's been taken. This is for him. The words hung heavy, broadcast live to millions, a surrender etched in real time. Ray watched the resignation on a cracked TV in the warehouse, the bulb's flicker sinking with his grin. Carter caved, he texted Leonard, smoke trailing from his cigarette, kid's yours to release. Leonard lounged in his condo, bourbon in hand, the city's glow of victory a backdrop. Drop him near the park, he replied, voice smug over the phone, let him think they won. Ray untied Jamal, ripping the gag free, the boy's sobs loud now, raw with exhaustion. Time to go, brat, Ray sneered, shoving him into the van, wrists still red from zip ties. By 8 o'clock, the van rolled into an alley near the park, tires crunching gravel. Ray kicked Jamal out, the boy stumbling onto the grass, knees scraped, his small frame trembling under a darkening sky. Run home, Ray barked, peeling off, dust clouding the air. Jamal staggered to his feet, tears blurring his vision, and bolted toward the park's lights, a lone figure in the dusk. Kesha spotted him first, waiting with Victor and Nadia at the park's edge, police tape still fluttering from the kidnapping site. Jamal, she screamed, sprinting, her nurse's shoes pounding pavement. He collapsed into her arms, sobbing, Mama, his voice a lifeline pulling her from despair. Victor joined them, kneeling, wrapping them both in a bear hug, his suit jacket soaking with their tears. You're safe, he whispered, stroking Jamal's hair, the boy's small body shaking against his chest. Nadia stood back, phone out, recording the reunion, her sharp eyes scanning for cops who'd barely searched. The family clung together, a fragile island in the chaos, believing the ransom's end was their win. Jamal's cheek pressed to Kesha's shoulder, the sting from Leonard's slap a distant ache beside this new terror. They let me go, he mumbled, eyes heavy, thinking the nightmare had lifted. Leonard gloated from his penthouse, flipping channels as news replayed Victor's resignation, pundits praising his sacrifice. The bourbon burned sweeter now, victory a tangible weight in his chest. Carter's done, he muttered, texting Harold Klein and Patricia Evans, board meeting tomorrow, push me back in. Harold replied, already on it, and Leonard leaned back, glass clinking against marble, imagining his courtroom reclaimed. Victor's fall was complete, the Carters broken, his own star rising from the ashes. He scrolled X, hashtag Carter is corrupt still trending, the kidnapping a shadow no one pinned on him. The board would bend, he knew, their old loyalties trumping truth. But Kesha wasn't sleeping. At 9 o'clock, with Jamal tucked into bed, his small snores a bomb, she sat at the kitchen table, Victor's resignation echoing in her mind. The cost was too high, Leonard's shadow too dark. She dug through her phone calls from the day, piling up, and found a voicemail from an unknown number left during the park wait. "Kesha, it's Tony," a gruff voice said, an old hospital co-worker turned PI. "Track that cop from the footage, Ray Dixon. Burner phone, ties him to Grayson. Got records." Her pulse quickened, fingers replaying it, the link a lifeline. She called Tony back, voice low, "Send it all." By 10 o'clock, files hit her inbox, call logs, payment trails, Ray's burner pinging Leonard's personal line. She showed Victor, his eyes narrowing as he read, resignation a hollow wind curdling into rage. "We've got him," he said, voice a blade. They'd fight back, expose the snake, reclaim their ground. The judicial board convened at 11 o'clock the next morning, a sterile room in the courthouse, oak table ringed by gray-haired judges in starched robes. Harold clean-chaired, his gravelly voice pitching Leonard's reinstatement. "Carter's out," he said, waving a hand. "Grayson's suspension was personal, not professional, time to fix it." Patricia Evans nodded, her wine-red nails tapping agreement, while others murmured assent, old alliances locking in. Victor's resignation played on a muted TV, a prop for their narrative. By noon, the vote passed, Leonard reinstated, his cases returned, his gavel back in hand. Harold called him, smug, "You're in, Len. Clean slate." Leonard grinned from his condo, suit pressed, ready to strut back. "Carter thought he'd bury me," he said, sipping coffee, "the city his kingdom again, he's dust now." Victor got the news at 1 o'clock, a curt email from a clerk, the board's decision a gut punch. Kesha stood beside him in their living room, Jamal coloring upstairs, crayon scraping paper in blissful ignorance. "They gave him back the bench," Victor said, voice flat, hands shaking with fury. Kesha clutched the burner records, Tony's files, a ticking bomb in her grip. "Not for long," she snapped, eyes fierce, "we've got proof." Victor nodded, resolve hardening, but the board's move crushed their hope, a hollow victory turned to ash. Leonard wasn't just free, he was empowered, his allies shielding him from the kidnapping stench. The warehouse's shadows lingered in Jamal's small whimpers from upstairs, a reminder of the cost. Ray ditched the van in a West Side chop shop, tires stripped, plates torched, his $500 spent on beer and smokes. He texted Leonard from a new burner, "Kids home, job's done," and vanished into the city's underbelly, a ghost in the machine. Leonard watched the board's announcement hit X, his reinstatement a trending topic, #Grayson must fall drowned out by cheers from his corner. He leaned back, bourbon refilled, smugness a thick fog around him. Victor's resignation had been the key, Jamal's return a cheap price, but Kesha's files burned in the background, a spark he couldn't see, ready to ignite the next war. Bronzeville streets buzzed under a humid mid-noon sun, kids darting through sprinklers, laughter bouncing off houses still scarred from the firebombing days ago. Kesha Carter sat at her kitchen table, Jamal's basketball idol beside her, her phone glowing with Tony's burner records linking Leonard Grayson to Ray Dixon. Victor paced nearby, tie off, sleeves rolled, his resignation a fresh wound after the board's reinstatement of Leonard yesterday. "We leak this," Kesha said, tapping the files, voice fierce, "show the world what he did to Jamal." Victor nodded, jaw tight, eyes burning with a father's rage. Nadia Price, their lawyer, arrived at 12:30, her briefcase snapping open like a gunshot. "Upload it now," she urged, heels clicking on linoleum, before he digs in deeper. Kesha's fingers flew over her cracked screen, posting the call logs and payment trails to X, tagging every news outlet, her caption roaring, "Grayson kidnapped my son. Proof here." By 1, the post hit 10,000 retweets, #Grayson's racist ruling surging again, protests sparking downtown, signs screaming, "Jail Grayson," in bold red. Leonard lounged in his Gold Coast condo, sipping espresso, the city's gleam a smug backdrop to his reinstated power. His phone buzzed at 1:15, Harold Clean's gravelly voice cutting through. Carter's wife leaked something. Phone records, payments, it's bad. Leonard's cup clattered to the counter, brown liquid pooling as he grabbed his tablet. X loaded with Kesha's post, the file stared back, Ray's burner tied to his personal line, $500 traced to a Shell account he'd forgotten to bury. His pulse spiked, bourbon replaced by cold sweat. That bitch, he snarled, dialing Ray, who picked up from a Southside dive bar. You screwed me. Leonard spat, they've got everything. Ray slurred, half drunk, told you I'd fix it. Leonard slammed the phone down, mind racing. The board's vote was fresh, but this could unravel it. He needed chaos, a counterpunch to drown the leaks. By 2, downtown Chicago throbbed with protesters, a sea of fists and placards clogging Michigan Avenue, justice for Jamal, chants shaking glass storefronts. News vans circled, cameras catching every shout, Kesha's evidence fueling the fire. Victor watched from his living room, TV blaring, Jamal coloring upstairs, oblivious to the storm his kidnapping had reignited. Kesha stood beside him, arms crossed, hope flickering. They're loud, she said, voice steady, maybe this will stick. Victor nodded, security guards still posted outside, their vests a thin shield after the firebombing. The protest felt like a win, Leonard's mask slipping, the city turning against him. But Leonard wasn't cornered yet. At 3 o'clock, he wired $10,000 to the Sons of Liberty from a new account, texting their leader, a hulking skinhead named Travis, trash Carter's neighborhood, make it hurt. Travis grinned in a hidden lair on the south side, a basement stinking of gun oil and beer, rallying 20 men in black hoodies. Time to teach them, he barked, loading bats and Molotovs into a van. At 4 o'clock, Bronzeville shuddered as the Sons roared in, tires screeching, engines growling like beasts. Windows shattered under baseball bats, glass raining onto lawns, screams piercing the humid air. Black tyrants go home, they bellowed, slurs flying with each swing. Jamal bolted downstairs, crayon scattering, his small frame trembling as he clung to Kesha. They're back, he whimpered, cheek pressed to her hip, the slaps echo mingling with new terror. Victor grabbed a kitchen knife, joining the guards outside, their shouts clashing with the mob's. Bats met fists, a guard slamming Travis against a mailbox, blood streaking pavement. Kesha barricaded the door, Jamal sobbing behind her, her phone recording the chaos through a crack in the blinds. After 10 brutal minutes, the guards drove them off, vans peeling away, leaving smashed porches and burning trash cans. Victor staggered inside, knuckles bruised, suit torn, the knife clattering to the floor. They're gone, he panted, pulling Jamal close. Kesha hugged them both, her video shaky but clear, a small win against the onslaught. Safety a fragile thread. Leonard watched the attack hit X at 5 o'clock, shaky clips from neighbors and Kesha's post trending, Sons of Liberty tagged with fury. He leaned back, bourbon refilled, a smirk tugging his lips. Good, he muttered, texting Travis, double for next time. But the protests downtown grew louder, 50,000 retweets on Kesha's leaks, news picking up the mob story with grim faces. His allies texted unease, Patricia Evans first, this ties to you, Len, careful. He ignored her, confidence unshaken. The boards backing a shield. Victor's resignation had cracked them, this would shatter their fight. He dialed Ray again, voice venomous, Carter still breathing, plant something big. Ray, sobering up, nodded into the phone, gotcha, and slipped out to a precinct locker, grabbing a baggie of cocaine from an evidence stash he'd pilfered years ago. At 6 o'clock, Ray crept into the courthouse, a ghost in a janitor's jacket, Victor's office key swiped from a bribed clerk. The halls lay quiet, marble gleaming under fluorescent buzz, guards lax after hours. He slipped into Victor's chambers, planting the cocaine in a desk drawer, dusting it with Victor's fingerprints from a coffee mug he'd lifted earlier. By 7 o'clock, he tipped off a patrol unit, drug tip, Carter's office, and waited, parked nearby, smirking as sirens wailed. Cops stormed the courthouse at 7:30, Channel 7's van trailing, cameras live as they kicked in Victor's door. "Found it," an officer shouted, holding the baggie aloft, white powder glinting under lights. Victor's nameplate flashed on screen, the anchor's voice breathless. "Breaking news, cocaine discovered in Chief Judge Carter's office hours after his resignation." Victor watched from home, TV blaring, Jamal asleep on the couch, Kesha's gasp a knife in the silence. "They planted it," he roared, fists slamming the table. "The mob's retreat a cruel prelude to this." Kesha lunged for her phone, dialing Nadia, her voice cracking. "They're framing Vic, drugs in his office, live on TV." Nadia cursed, "I'm there in 10, and sped to the courthouse, her car weaving through traffic. Victor stood frozen, the screen looping the raid, cops cuffing a night janitor who'd seen nothing, the baggie waved like a trophy. Jamal stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Daddy?" Victor knelt, forcing a smile. "Just a mistake, buddy," but his hands shook, rage boiling beneath calm. Kesha's video of the mob uploaded at 8 o'clock, syncing with the drug bust. X erupting with hashtag Carter framed posts, but the news spun faster. Disgraced judge's downfall, headlines burying her truth. Police hauled Victor in at 8:30, cuffs clicking, cameras flashing, his head high despite the lie chaining him. Kesha clutched Jamal, tears soaking his hair, their small win torched by Leonard's relentless hate. Leonard watched the arrest from his balcony, city lights a victory crown, bourbon glass raised in a silent toast. "Carter's finished," he muttered, texting Harold, "board safe now." Harold replied, "Clean sweep," and Leonard grinned, the cocaine a masterstroke. Ray called, voice smug, planted tight, "Boss, he's toast." Leonard hung up, sipping slow, the mob's chaos and the drugs a 1-2 punch. Victor's resignation had been the opening, this was the kill shot. X churned with split rage, some screaming, "Frame up," others cheering, "Crooked judge," but the board stayed silent, their reinstatement of Leonard ironclad. He'd crushed the Carters, their fight a smoldering ruin, his throne reclaimed. Victor sat in a precinct cell at 9 o'clock, concrete cold under his palms, cuffs off but shame heavy. Kesha stood outside, Nadia arguing with a sergeant, her voice sharp, "No warrant, no evidence, this is." Jamal clung to her leg, eyes wide, the arrest a new scar on his small soul. The mob's bats, the firebombing, the kidnapping, all paled against this public gutting, Leonard's hand unseen but felt. Victor stared at the wall, resolve flickering. Kesha's files, their last card, now buried under cocaine lies. The city pulsed beyond, protests fading, Leonard's shadow lengthening with each tick of the clock. What do you think of Leonard's latest move? Comment number 1 if you believe planting drugs on Victor is the dirtiest trick yet, or number 2 if you think Kesha's evidence can still turn this around. Like and subscribe to catch the next twist in this brutal saga. Can Victor claw back from this frame-up, or will Leonard's next strike bury them deeper in the ashes of their fight? The Chicago courtroom buzzed under harsh fluorescent lights, a packed gallery of reporters and gawkers cramming wooden benches, their whispers a low hum against marble walls. Victor Carter stood in the dock at 9 o'clock on a muggy Monday morning, his suit crisp but his face hollowed by a night in lockup, the cocaine frame-up from Leonard Grayson's crooked cop still clinging to him like damp rot. Kesha sat in the front row, Jamal beside her, his small hands twisting a frayed shoelace, eyes darting to his father's cuffed wrists. The judge, a stern woman named Clara Henshaw with silver hair pinned tight, banged her gavel, silencing the room. "State versus Victor Carter," she intoned, voice flat, possession of a controlled substance. The prosecutor, a wiry man with a nasal drawl, strutted forward, waving the baggie of cocaine found in Victor's office, his opening smug. This former judge, disgraced by resignation, hid his corruption behind a robe, will prove intent. Victor's jaw clenched, the liar's blade twisting deeper, Leonard's shadow looming unseen. Nadia Price stood at Victor's side, her tailored blazer sharp as her tongue, her briefcase open with files stacked like ammunition. She'd spent the weekend digging, Tony's burner records now paired with forensic tests she'd rushed through a private lab. Your Honor, she began, voice cutting through the prosecutor's drone, this is a setup, the evidence was planted. The gallery murmured, heads craning as she held up a report, ink still fresh. No prints on the bag match my client. Desk mug prints were smeared, not natural. Cocaine's purity matches a precinct stash, not street supply. The prosecutor scoffed, speculation, but Clara's eyes narrowed, peering over her glasses. Nadia pressed on, calling a lab tech to the stand, a nervous man with thick glasses who stammered through his findings. Prints were wiped then added, not organic placement. The prosecutor squirmed, papers rustling, his case fraying under Nadia's scalpel. By noon, Clara banged her gavel again, voice clipped, charges dismissed, insufficient evidence. Victor exhaled, cuffs clicking off, a fleeting grin breaking his stoic mask. Kesha leaped up, pulling Jamal into a hug, his small frame trembling with relief. Daddy's free, she whispered, stroking his hair, the boy's eyes bright with hope. Victor stepped down, shaking Nadia's hand, his voice low, you saved me. She nodded, fierce, not done yet. They walked out into the courthouse lobby, sunlight streaming through tall windows, reporters swarming but held back by security. Jamal clung to Victor's leg, basketball forgotten at home, his small victory a shield against the past week's hell, the slap, the firebombing, the kidnapping, the arrest. We beat him, right? He asked, voice small but steady. Victor knelt, cupping his son's face. Yeah, buddy, we did. Kesha smiled, her cracked phone buzzing with X updates, hashtag Carter framed post surging, the trial's end, a spark reigniting their fight. They thought it was over, Leonard's trap sprung and shattered, justice a fragile win they could clutch. Leonard watched the dismissal from his Gold Coast condo, TV blaring Channel 7's live feed, his bourbon glass shattering against the wall, amber spraying marble. Dismissed, he roared, pacing, suit jacket flung over a chair, tie a noose around his neck. Ray Dixon's text buzzed through, told you it had stick, a drunk taunt from a South Side bar. Leonard's reply was venom, you're dead to me. The board had reinstated him, the mob had trashed Bronzeville, Victor's resignation had cracked them, but this acquittal was a gut punch. Nadia's forensics had blindsided him, the cocaine ploy crumbling like wet sand. He grabbed his laptop, X loading with hashtag Carter cleared trending, Kesha's leak still burning at 150,000 retweets. His allies stayed quiet, Harold Klein and Patricia Evans dodging calls, their silence a crack in his armor. Leonard's fury boiled, a predator cornered, his smugness torched by Victor's defiance. At 2 o'clock, Leonard met Harold in a Loop diner, a greasy spoon stinking of burnt coffee and fries, blinds half drawn against prying eyes. Harold slouched in a booth, bourbon in a mug, his gravelly voice low, you're slipping, Len, trial flopped, leaks are sticking. Leonard leaned forward, eyes steel blue slits. Carter's luck runs out now, I've gotta play. He slid a USB drive across the table, voice oily, doctored video, Carter confessing to bribery, backdated cases, leak it tonight. Harold palmed the drive, smirking, I'll lead it up, and left, his pickup rumbling off. Leonard stayed, sipping stale coffee, plotting the next blow. The acquittal was a hiccup, this would bury Victor's name in mud, public opinion his real gavel. By 6, the video hit X, a grainy clip uploaded from an anonymous account, hashtag Carter confesses tagged with venom. It showed Victor in his office, face digitally warped but recognizable, voice dubbed in a flat monotone, I took cash to sway cases, years of it. The footage looped, 10 seconds of poison, timestamps faked to 2018, cases listed in a pinned comment, a drug bust, a theft, all black defendants he'd let off. Harold's nephew at the sleazy news site pushed it hard, disgraced judge's secret shame, and Fox News pounced, pundits howling, corruption confirmed. X split again, hashtag Carter cleared drowned by hashtag Carter is corrupt, 50,000 retweets in an hour, the public turning like a tide. Kesha saw it first, phone buzzing at home, Jamal coloring beside her, his crayons pausing mid-stroke. "Vic," she called, voice trembling, "they're at it again." Victor stormed in, TV flipping to the clip, his face paling as the dubbed voice echoed. "It's fake," he snapped, fists clenching, but the damage spread, a lie louder than Nadia's truth. At 8 o'clock, Victor called Nadia, pacing the living room, Jamal's small snores a faint comfort upstairs. "Doctored," he said, voice raw, "Grayson's desperate." Nadia's reply crackled through, "I'll trace it, get experts, but it's fast, public's buying it." Kesha sat on the couch, clutching the basketball, her leaks now a whisper against this roar. "They won't stop," she muttered, eyes blazing. Victor nodded, resolve flickering, the acquittal's joy gutted by Leonard's venom. The city churned outside, protests fading, Carter corrupt, a graffiti scrolled on a neighbor's fence, a taunt in wet paint. Leonard's allies flexed, Harold texting board members, "See the video, Carter's done," their silence a noose tightening. Victor's career hung by a thread, the trials when a mirage torched by digital lies. Leonard grinned from his balcony at 9 o'clock, city lights a crown, bourbon refilled as he scrolled X, the video at 100,000 retweets, comments screaming, "Lock him up." He'd flipped the script, Victor's acquittal a footnote, public fury his weapon now. Harold called, smug, governors watching, once cleared board, Leonard sipped, savoring the burn, push it through. By 10 o'clock, the governor's office issued a statement, a cold press release email to every outlet. Pending investigation, Victor Carter is barred from judicial reinstatement effective immediately. Channel 7 flashed it live, the anchor's voice gleeful, Carter's career ends in disgrace. Leonard toasted the screen, glass clinking, his throne secure, the Carters crushed under a lie he'd crafted in shadows. Victor saw the statement at 10:30, TV blaring in the living room, Kesha's gasp a knife in the quiet. Jamal slept upstairs, crayons scattered, his small world shrinking with each blow, the slap, the firebombing, the kidnapping, the arrest, now this ban. Victor muttered, sinking onto the couch, hands shaking, the acquittal's relief ashes in his mouth. Kesha clutched his arm, voice fierce, "We've got the burner files, Vic, we fight." He nodded, eyes hollow, but the governor's move was a sledgehammer, Leonard's video a noose. Nadia texted, tracing the fake, "Hang on," but time bled out, public hate a tidal wave, the courthouse loomed in his mind, a fortress he'd ruled now a grave for his name. Leonard's allies shielding him from the kidnapping truth. Kesha stood at 11 o'clock, phone glowing with X chaos, hashtag Carter is corrupt at 200,000 retweets, her leaks buried under doctored lies. She grabbed Tony's files, resolve hardening, a mother's rage against a system rigged to break them. Victor watched her, the trials when a cruelest, Leonard's escalation a storm they couldn't outrun. The city pulsed beyond, its streets a battleground, the Carters' hope flickering in a wind of hate. Leonard's video wasn't just a lie, it was a death nail, his power a hydra growing heads with each cut, their small victory torched by a trap they'd never seen coming. The Bronzeville Elementary playground hummed under a gray noon sky, kids shrieking as they swung on rusty chains and chased a soccer ball across patchy grass. Jamal Carter, 8 and small for his age, dribbled his basketball near the fence, his navy uniform wrinkled from a morning of math and spelling. The trials when yesterday, Victor's acquittal from the cocaine frame-up, had lifted his spirits, a faint smile tugging his lips as the ball thumped rhythmically against concrete. Kesha had dropped him off with a tight hug, her nurse's shift looming, whispering, "You're safe now, baby," believing Leonard Grayson's latest trap had crumbled. Victor sat at home, poring over Tony's burner files, plotting their next move against the doctored video barring his reinstatement. Jamal bounced the ball harder, the slap sting a distant ache, the kidnapping a nightmare he could outrun here among friends. But Leonard wasn't done, his fury a coiled snake ready to strike. In his Gold Coast condo, Leonard paced, a marble floor streaked with dried bourbon, the governor's ban on Victor a hollow victory after the trial's collapse. His phone buzzed at 11 o'clock, Ray Dixon's slurred voice crackling from a Southside bar. "Carter's free, boss, you still want blood?" Leonard's eyes narrowed, steel blue slits glinting with hate. "The kid," he snapped, voice low, "hit him hard, make it public." Ray grunted, "Got 2 guys, Mexicans, 1,000 each." Leonard wired the cash from a new Shell account, his laptop pinging with confirmation, then leaned back, sipping coffee gone cold, imagining Jamal's small frame broken. The video lie had backfired, X still churning with hashtag Carter cleared posts at 250,000 retweets, Kesha's leaks a thorn he couldn't pull. This would snap the Carter's spine, a blow Victor's acquittal couldn't shield. At 12:30, 2 thugs in hoodies slipped into the playground's alley, Ray's henchman, Marcus, a wiry man with a shaved head and a teardrop tattoo, and B, a hulking brute with knuckles scarred from bar fights. They waited, eyes locked on Jamal, his basketball a beacon in the gray. The bell rang, recess peaking, kids scattering, and Jamal drifted near the fence, alone for a moment. Marcus moved first, a blur of black cotton, grabbing Jamal's arm, twisting it back. B swung a fist, connecting with Jamal's ribs, a dull thud drowned by playground noise. Jamal crumpled, gasping, the ball rolling into mud, his small body curling as kicks rained down, sneakers slamming his back, his legs. "Stay down, punk," Marcus hissed, a racial slur spitting from his lips. B's laugh a cruel echo. Kids screamed, scattering, a teacher's whistle piercing the air, but the thugs bolted before staff reached the fence, vanishing into the alley's shadows. Kesha's phone rang at 1, mid-shift at the hospital, a coworker's voice frantic, "Jamal's hurt, school attack." She dropped a tray of bandages, sprinting out, scrubs flapping, heart a jackhammer in her chest. Victor got the call simultaneous, leaping from his kitchen table. Tony's files scattering as he grabbed keys. They met at the school, a chaotic swirl of cop cars and sobbing kids. Jamal on a stretcher, face bruised, ribs aching, his small hand clutching a paramedic's sleeve. "Mama," he whimpered, eyes swollen, tears cutting tracks through dirt. Kesha knelt, stroking his hair. "I'm here, baby," her voice breaking. Victor's fists clenching beside her, rage a volcano beneath his calm. Cops questioned staff, Nadia Price arriving at 1:30, her heels clicking as she demanded arrests. By 2, Marcus and B were cuffed downtown, nabbed in a dive bar, Ray's burner pinging their phones, a sloppy trail. Nadia pounced, "Grayson's dogs," she said, voice steel, filing assault charges, the thug's prints on Jamal's backpack sealing it. Jamal went home at 3 o'clock, bruised but breathing, Kesha's arms a fortress, Victor's relief a fragile shield. "So, they're locked up," he said, kissing Jamal's forehead, believing the assault's end was their win. Leonard got Ray's text at 4 o'clock, pacing his condo. "Guy's caught, cops got him." His coffee mug shattered against the wall, ceramic shards raining, fury boiling over. "Idiots," he snarled, dialing Harold Klein, voice venomous, "Carter's kid got hit, but my men are down. Fix this." Harold, in his courthouse office, grunted, boards shaky, "Len, leaks and now this." Leonard slammed the desk. "Frame the wife, child neglect, kids hurt, pin it on her." Harold nodded, texting a CPS contact, a greasy woman named Linda with a knack for twisting cases. Leonard leaned back, bourbon refilled, the arrest's a hiccup, his allies still in play. X buzz with hashtag justice for Jamal at 300,000 retweets, but he'd flip it, Victor's acquittal a fleeting high he'd crush. At 5 o'clock, Linda from CPS knocked on the Carter's door, a clipboard clutched in her bony hands, her pinched face a mask of false concern. Kesha answered, Jamal on the couch, ice packs on his ribs, his small frame dwarfed by blankets. "Mrs. Carter," Linda said, voice nasal, "we've had a report, child neglect, your son's injuries suggest unfit care." Kesha's jaw dropped. "Neglect? He was attacked at school." Linda scribbled, unmoved, bruises, history of incidents, public chaos, we're taking custody pending investigation. Victor stormed in, "Ty askew." "This is Grayson," he snapped, but Linda waved a court order, Harold's strings pulled fast. 2 cops flanked her, badges glinting, and Jamal clung to Kesha. "Mama, no," his voice roared with terror. She fought, tears streaming, "You can't take him," but the cops pried him free, his small hands grasping air, screams echoing as they carried him to a van. Kesha collapsed, Victor catching her, the door slamming shut, their wind torched by Leonard's ruthless hand. Jamal sat in a foster home by 6 o'clock, a drab South Side house with peeling paint and a stern woman named Ruth barking rules. His ribs throbbed, bruises blooming purple, his basketball left behind in Bronzeville, a lost relic of a life Leonard Grayson had torched. The slap, the firebombing, the kidnapping, the cocaine frame, now CPS snatching him under a neglect lie. Kesha Carter woke at the same hour, her bedroom silent without Jamal's snores, Victor pacing beside her, his suit swapped for a rumpled shirt. Tony's burner files their last lifeline against Leonard's relentless hate. "I'm getting him back," Kesha said, voice steel, grabbing a burner phone of her own, a cheap flip model Tony had slipped her days ago. Victor nodded, fists clenched. "We've got proof, use it." Kesha slipped out at 7 o'clock, dodging CPS eyes, her nurse's scrubs swapped for a hoodie and jeans blending into Bronzeville's morning shuffle. She met Tony in a diner off 63rd Street, a greasy hole with cracked booths and a jukebox stuck on static. Tony, grizzled and wiry, slid a folder across the table, coffee steam curling between them. "Grayson's network," he rasped, "Ray not alone, thugs, cops, even a judge's clerk, call logs, bank trails, all here." Kesha flipped it open, eyes scanning payments from Leonard's shell accounts to Marcus and B, the playground attackers, and a wire to Linda, the CPS puppet. Her pulse quickened, fingers tracing a photo of Leonard at a bar, Ray grinning beside him, a timestamp from the kidnapping day. "This ends him," she said, voice low, pocketing the folder, resolve a fire in her gut. Tony leaned back. "Risky, he's got eyes everywhere." She smirked, fierce. "So do I." By 8 o'clock, Kesha infiltrated Leonard's world, tailing Harold Klein from the courthouse, his pickup a beacon in loop traffic. She parked blocks away, hoodie up, slipping into a dive bar Harold frequented, a dark pit stinking of whiskey and regret. He sat with Patricia Evans, their voices low, plotting Leonard's next move. Kesha perched at the counter nursing a soda, her burner phone recording through a pocket slit. "Carter's kids gone, Vic's banned," Harold grunted, bourbon sloshing, lens untouchable now. Patricia, nails tapped. "Leaks are a problem, wife's digging." Harold smirked, not for long, boasting Leonard's plan to silence her. Kesha's grip tightened, the audio gold, Leonard's arrogance a rope she'd hang him with. She slipped out at 9 o'clock unnoticed, the recording a ticking bomb, her nurse's calm masking a mother's rage. Victor stayed home guarding their flank, Nadia Price on speed dial, her voice crackling through at 10 o'clock. "CPS hearings tomorrow," she said, "I'll fight, but we need more." He sent her Tony's files. "Kesha's got something big, wait for it." Jamal's absence gnawed at him, the acquittal's joy a cruel jest, Leonard's CPS trap a sledgehammer. At 11:00, Kesha burst in, hoodie damp with sweat, tossing the burner on the table. "Listen," she said, playing Harold's brag, his voice clear, lens untouchable now. Victor's eyes blazed. "We've got him." They called Nadia, who raced over, heels clicking. By noon, her briefcase open as she synced the audio with Tony's proof. "Caught ready," she said, grinning, "CPS won't stand." By 1, they stormed the foster home, Nadia flashing a judge's emergency order forged from a friend on the bench, her bluff bold Ruth, the stern foster mom, scowled, papers fake, but buckled under Nadia's glare, cops too slow to intervene. Jamal ran to Kesha, sobbing, "Mama," his small frame bruised but alive, ribs aching as she hugged him tight. Victor lifted him, tears streaking. "You're home." Their reunion a fragile win, Leonard's neglect lie shattered. Leonard lounged in his condo at 2 o'clock, bourbon in hand, X buzzing with hashtag CarterNeglect at 75,000 retweets, CPS's spin holding. Harold texted all quiet, and Leonard smirked, city lights a crown, smugness thick. The assault's arrests hadn't touched him, Marcus and be silent under plea deals, Ray a ghost, Victor's ban, the trials flop, all pieces locked, the Carters fight a smoldering ruin. But at 3 o'clock, his phone buzzed, an unknown number, Ray's voice slurring. They got the kid back, Carter's wife's got ears. Leonard's glass paused midair, what? Ray hiccuped, be talked, she was there. Leonard's pulse spiked, bourbon splashing as he stood, fury boiling. Kesha's move blindsided him, the reunion a gut punch, his CPS trap sprung. He dialed Travis, the Sons of Liberty skinhead, voice venomous, Carter's wife's alive, fix it, 20 grand. Travis grunted, 2 shooters tonight, and hung up. Leonard's smugness curdling into panic, Kesha's shadow a threat he couldn't dodge. At 4 o'clock, the Carters huddled in their living room, Jamal on the couch, ice packs on his ribs, Kesha stroking his hair, Victor pacing with Tony's files. He's safe, she whispered, but her eyes darted to windows, security guards outside, a thin shield. Nadia left for court, prepping the CPS fight, her voice fierce over the phone, I'll bury them tomorrow. Jamal smiled, small and tired. No more mean lady. Victor knelt, nobody, believing the Foster nightmare's end was their stand. But at 5 o'clock, headlights flashed outside, a black SUV screeching to a halt, 2 hitmen in ski masks leaping out, guns drawn. Kesha saw first, shoving Jamal down, get low, as bullets ripped through windows, glass shattering, guards diving for cover. Victor tackled them to the floor, heart pounding, the SUV's roar a death knell, tires squealed, a guard firing back, bullets pinging metal, but the hitmen aimed for Kesha, a headshot grazing her scalp, blood trickling as she screamed, Jamal. The SUV peeled off. At 5:15, guards scrambling, neighbors dialing 911, chaos swallowing their win. Victor dragged Kesha and Jamal behind the couch, her blood smearing his hands, Jamal's sobs a siren in his ears. Mama's hurt, the boy wailed, small hands clutching her arm, ribs aching with each breath. Kesha gritted her teeth. I'm okay, her voice a lie, scalp burning, dizziness creeping in. Guards burst in. Clear, one shouted, radios crackling. Cops 10 minutes out, too slow again. Victor pressed a towel to her head. Stay with me, his voice breaking. The reunion's joy torched by Leonard's escalation. Nadia raced back at 5:30, finding them huddled, Kesha pale, ambulance en route, she barked, phone out, Tony's files a lifeline now. Paramedics arrived at 5:45, stretcher wheeling Kesha out, Jamal clinging to Victor, don't let her go, his small voice a plea. They hit a new scar on their battered souls. Leonard watched the news at 6 o'clock, Channel 7's chopper circling Bronzeville, shooting at Carter home, wife injured, the anchor's voice grim. He grinned, bourbon swirling, texting Travis, good work, smugness thick despite the miss. X erupted, hashtag Carter attack trending, but hashtag CarterNeglect held at 75,000 retweets strong. Kesha's survival a hiccup, Harold called, she's alive, Len, cops will dig. Leonard sneered, let them, no trail, his allies silent, the board unshaken, his throne secure. Ray vanished, burner torched, the hitmen ghosts in the wind. Leonard's hand unseen, the Carters win a smoldering ruin. Kesha hit the ER at 7 o'clock, scalp stitched, concussion confirmed, Jamal beside her, Victor's hand gripping hers, blood staining his shirt. I heard him, she whispered, voice weak, Grayson's voice in that bar. Nadia nodded, recording ready. We've got enough. The ambulance crash flashed, news calling at random, cops shrugging, gang hit, racism a silent wall. Victor's eyes blazed. He thinks we're done, resolve hardening. Jamal's small frame fuel, the Foster fight a cruel jest against this assassination try, Leonard's hate a tidal wave crashing harder. Leonard Grayson's Gold Coast penthouse glowed under a crisp evening sky, its marble floors reflecting city lights like a polished crown, a fortress of victory. At 7 sharp, he stood in a tailored tuxedo, bourbon in hand, hosting a dozen allies in a lavish party, their laughter bouncing off glass walls. Harold Klein raised a tumbler, his gravelly voice booming, to Leonard, restored and untouchable. Patricia Evans clinked her wine glass, nails glinting. Carter's buried, boards ours, judges, clerks, and a crooked cop toasted, the room thick with cigar smoke and smugness, celebrating Victor's barring, Kesha's near death, Jamal's Foster scare, all chess pieces knocked flat. Leonard grinned, sipping slow, the TV muted on Channel 7 replaying the SUV ambush as random violence, trending Carter attack at 50,000 retweets drowned by Carter neglect at 100,000, their dust, he said, voice oily. The hitman's miss a footnote, his throne reclaimed, the Carters fight a smoldering ruin he torched with every move. Across town in Bronzeville, Kesha Carter lay in a hospital bed at 8 o'clock, scalp stitched from the grazing bullet, her head throbbing under a concussion's haze, for dripping steady. Jamal curled beside her, small frame bruised from the playground assault, his eyes red but dry, clutching her hand, ribs aching with each breath. Victor stood by the window, suit swapped for a blood-stained shirt, staring at Chicago's skyline. Tony's burner files and Kesha's bar recording clutched in his grip. I heard him, Kesha rasped, voice weak but fierce, Grayson boasting in that bar. Victor turned, eyes blazing. You're alive. She nodded, wincing, faked it, told the ER to leak I'm dead, bought us time. Her plan had sparked after the ambush, a nurse friend slipping the lie to news, ex buzzing with Carter wife dead, her post at 20,000 retweets by 9, Leonard's party blind to her pulse. Victor's jaw tightened smart we've got him now. At 9 o'clock Kesha checked out against doctor's orders gauze taped tight her hoodie hiding the wound Jamal clinging to her arm Victor shielding them from prying eyes they fled up in a safe house Nadia Price had secured a drab westside flat with peeling paint and a single bulb flickering overhead security guards posted outside Nadia burst in at 9:30 briefcase open syncing Kesha's recording with Tony's files her voice sharp Harold's brag. Ties Leonard to the kidnapping the hit we've got date payments. Voices Victor pasted leak it all live Kesha nodded burner phone out uploading to X from a ghost account the audio blasting. Harold's lens, untouchable. Paired with call logs. Bank trails. Ray. Dixon's name in bold by 10, Channel 7. Cut into Leonard's party. Buzz, a breaking news banner screaming, Grayson linked to Carter attacks. The clip looping. Nationwide, 100,000 retweets in an hour. Grayson must fall. Roaring back, Leonard's party froze at 10:15. Bourbon glasses clattering as the TV unmuted. Harold's voice echoing from the screen, his smugness a tightening noose. What the hell? Leonard roared, shoving past Patricia, her wine spilling red across marble. Guests scattering for phones, X-loading with the leak. Carter wife dead flipped to Carter fights back at 50,000 retweets. Harold stammered, she's alive. Leonard's pulse hammered. Bourbon flung against the wall, shards raining. His smugness curdling into panic. Kesha, he snarled, dialing Travis, the Sons of Liberty skinhead. Voice venomous, she's not dead. Find her. Travis grunted, on it. But Leonard's allies wavered. Patricia texting, this is over, Len. Harold bolting for the door, the party a sinking ship. The public turning like a tide against him. Victor watched the leak hit from the safe house at 10:30. TV blaring. Jamal asleep on a cot. Kesha's stitched scalp hidden under a hood, her eyes fierce. They're running, she said, voice steady despite pain. The ambushes, terror of fuel now. Nadia grinned. Cops can't ignore this. Arrests coming by 11. Sirens wailed downtown. Police swarming Leonard's condo. Cuffs clicking as they dragged him out, tuxedo rumpled, his roar drowned by camera flashes. Channel 7 Live, Grayson arrested. Carter evidence stuns X, erupted. Grayson must fall. At 200,000 retweets. Protests reigniting, signs screaming, justice for Jamal, under floodlights. Victor hugged Kesha. Jamal stirring, Daddy, his small voice. Their reunion a beacon. Leonard's fall a triumph. They clutched, believing the war was won. Leonard sat in a precinct cell at midnight. Concrete cold, tuxedo torn. His steel blue eyes glaring at bars, cuffs biting his wrists. Carter's bluff, he muttered, but the leak's weight crushed his denial. Harold's voice a ghost in his ears. Raised burner trails, a chain he couldn't break. Cops grilled him, kidnapping, assault, attempted murder, a detective listing charges. Leonard's sneer fading. Allies silent. The board scrambling. Harold texted Patricia from a bar, he's done. Her reply, Kurt cut ties. Leonard's throne crumbled. The party toast a bitter jest. Victor's barring Kesha's death all flipped by a mother's grit. His arrest a climax he'd never foreseen. Kesha stood at one safe house. Bulb flickering. Jamal asleep. Victor beside her. Tony's files spread like a map of revenge. He's locked up, she said, voice raw, concussion throbbing, but resolve iron. Victor nodded. Nadia is pushing the CPS case. He's finished. They thought it was over. The slaps echo. The firebombing. The kidnapping. The hit. All buried under Leonard's cuffs. Their small win ablaze lighting the dark. But at 2, a courthouse clerk, a mole Leonard had paid years ago, slipped a judge a note, a technicality buried in the leak's files. Unsigned warrant on Dixon's phone. By 3, Leonard walked free. A white judge named Ellis ruling insufficient chain of custody. His smirk back, cuffs off. Channel 7 flashing, Grayson released. Evidence flawed, split with Carter betrayed, at 50,000 retweets. Victor saw it at 3:15. Safe house TV blaring. Kesha's gasp a knife in the quiet. Jamal stirring, Mama. Victor punched the wall, plaster cracking. Technicality, his voice a growl. The arrest's triumph ash in his mouth. Kesha clutched her head. Stitch is pulling. He's out. Nadia called, voice strained. Ellis is Grayson's old pal. Rigged it. Leonard strutted from the precinct at 3:30, tuxedo swapped for a suit, boarding a private jet at a West Side airstrip. His voice smug over a burner, Carter's done. I'm clear, vowing revenge to Travis mid-flight. The city shrinking below. His allies regrouping. The Carters win a mirage, torched by a system's bend. Victor's barring held. Kesha's survival a taunt. Jamal's bruises a quiet ache. Leonard's release a sledgehammer. Their hope a flicker in a wind of hate. Leonard's jet soared at 4, clouds swallowing Chicago. Bourbon poured by a hired steward, his grin a predator gleam. X trending, Grayson free, at 75,000 retweets. Carter betrayed, surging. They'll pay, he muttered, texting Ray, find them. His escape a middle finger to justice. The board silence a shield. Harold and Patricia plotting his return. Victor stood at 5 safe house. Bulb dim. Kesha's stitch is bleeding through gauze. Jamal's small snores a lullaby. Tony's files a lifeline. Now he's not done, Victor said, voice steel. Nadia digging for Ellis's ties. The arrests end a cruel jest. Leonard's escalation a noose tightening. Their triumph a smoldering ruin under his flight. Kesha sat at 6. Jamal's hand in hers. Victor pacing. The jets roar a ghost in their ears. Leonard's freedom a slap worse than the first. I heard him, she whispered, bar recording replaying in her mind. Harold's boast a chain they'd snap. Victor nodded, eyes hollow. We fight harder. The cities pulse a taunt beyond their walls. Leonard's allies are Hydra. They're small when a spark in a storm of hate. The airstrip's shadow looming. His next blow a mystery they'd face with battered grit. The west side airstrip lay silent under a pre-dawn haze. A strip of cracked tarmac flanked by rusting hangars. Leonard Grayson's private jet idling at 5, its engines a low growl against Chicago's sleeping sprawl. Inside, Leonard lounged in a leather seat, bourbon in hand, his suit crisp despite last night's precinct stint. His steel blue eyes glinting with smug fury. The technical release from Judge Ellis, a crooked ally, had sprung him hours ago. X trending, Grayson free, at 100,000 retweets. The Carters leak a fleeting sting he dodged. He dialed Travis, the Sons of Liberty skinhead. Voice venomous, Carter's alive. Wife too. End them. Travis grunted from a south side lair, got a crew. 20 grand more. Leonard wired it, his laptop pinging confirmation. Plotting a final blow from 30,000 feet, the city a chessboard he'd burned to win. Kesha Carter stood in the safe house at 6, gauze peeling from her stitched scalp. Concussion throbbing a dull roar. Jamal asleep on a cot, his small frame bruised but breathing. Victor pacing beside her with Tony's files. He's free, Victor said, voice raw. TV replaying Leonard's jet departure. Ellis rigged it. Kesha's eyes blazed. I've got him. Pulling her burner phone, the bar recording synced with a hacker friend's tech, a woman named Lila with a knack for cracking systems. Jetcom, Lila texted, patching you in by 6:30. Kesha hacked Leonard's onboard radio, his voice crackling live. I slapped that kid, framed Carter, hit his wife, and I'd do it again. A confession spilling as Lila hijacked Channel 7's feed, broadcasting it nationwide. 200,000 retweets in minutes. Grayson confesses, igniting X like wildfire. Leonard's jet hummed at 7, bourbon mid-sip when the steward's radio blared his own words, I slapped that kid, looping loud. His smirk freezing, glass slipping to shatter on the floor. What the hell, he roared, lunging for the controls, but Lila's hack locked him out. His confession echoing, passengers gasping, pilot's face paling. Channel 7 cut live, Grayson caught mid-flight. Protests erupting downtown, fists pounding air, signs screaming, jail him now. Under a gray dawn, X hit 300,000 retweets. Grayson confesses, trending global. The public's roar a tidal wave. Leonard's allies scrambling. Harold Klein texting Patricia Evans, he's done. Her reply, CT cut him. Leonard pounded the jet's wall, bourbon shards cutting his palm. Smugness torched. The city turning below. His escape a trap he'd flown into. Victor watched from the safe house at 7:30. TV blaring. Kesha grinned, fierce despite pain. Jamal stirring, mama. She knelt, we got him, baby. His small eyes wide, hope flickering. Nadia Price burst in, heels clicking. FAA's grounding him. Cops waiting. Her voice steel. Tony's files and the recording, a noose tightening. By 8, protests swelled, 10,000 strong outside the courthouse, chants shaking glass. Justice for Jamal. The jet forced down at the airstrip, engines whining to a halt. Police swarming, lights flashing. Leonard's cuffs clicking again, his roar drowned by sirens. Channel 7 live, Grayson grounded, arrested again. Victor drove to the airstrip at 8:30, Kesha beside him, Jamal in the back. Safe house left behind. Their win ablaze. Leonard's jet a cage he couldn't flee. Leonard stumbled from the plane at 9, suit rumpled, blood streaking his hand. Cops pinning his arms, his steel blue eyes wild with rage. Carter, he bellowed, spotting Victor across the tarmac. Kesha's burner feed still looping on news van screens, "I'd do it again," a confession he couldn't unsay. Victor stepped forward, 6 feet of quiet menace. Jamal clutching Kesha's hand, his small frame trembling but steady. The slaps echo a scar heed. "You're finished," Victor said, voice granite, disarming a guard's gun from Leonard's reach. The thugs lunged thwarted by cuffs. Leonard sneered, "System's mine," pulling a hidden pistol from his belt, a last gasp of power, and fired. The shot cracking dawn. Victor's chest blooming red, blood pooling as he collapsed. Jamal's scream, "Daddy," piercing the tarmac air. Kesha's cry a raw wound. Hope dying on tarmac stained with their fight. Cops tackled Leonard at 9:15, gun skidding. His smirk fading as they slammed him to concrete, cuffs biting deeper. Attempted murder, a detective barking. Jet engines silent. The city's roar a distant echo. Kesha dropped beside Victor, hands pressing his chest, blood soaking her fingers. "Stay with me," her voice breaking. Jamal sobbing, "Don't go," his small hands grasping air, ribs aching with each wail. Paramedics raced in at 9:20, stretcher rolling. Victor's pulse faint, eyes fluttering. The confessions went a Pyrrhic blaze. Leonard shot a sledgehammer. Their triumph torched by a bullet's flight. News vans circled. Carter shot Grayson. X hitting 400,000 retweets. Carter betrayed, surging. Cops dawdling. Self-defense, one muttered. Racism, a quiet wall. Leonard's allies scattering. Harold and Patricia gone. The board mute. Victor hit surgery at 10, Northwestern Hospital's ER a blur of white coats and blood. Kesha clutching Jamal in the waiting room, her stitches pulling, concussion a pinprick. His small frame shaking. "He'll be okay, right?" She nodded, lying, "Yeah, baby," her voice a thread. Tony's files and the recording a lifeline now. Nadia storming in, "I'll bury him," her voice fierce. Jet feed still looping on TV. Leonard's confession a chain he couldn't break. Cops held him downtown, cell cold, his suit torn, steel blue eyes glaring. "Carter's dead," he muttered, but doubt gnawed. The shot's chaos a gamble he'd lost. X trending, justice for Victor, at 100,000 retweets. Protests choking streets. His jet a tomb. His escape a mirage. Kesha stood at 11. Hospital air sterile. Jamal's head on her lap. Victor's blood drying on her hands. The slap. The firebombing. The kidnapping. The hit. Now, this. A war Leonard waged with every breath he confessed. He confessed, she whispered. Lila's hack a spark. Nadia filing charges. Murder attempt, conspiracy, her briefcase a weapon. Leonard's cell buzzed at noon. A guard's radio replaying the jet feed. His voice a ghost, "I'd do it again." His allies silent. Travis texting, "Suns are out." The board cracking. His throne ash. The Carters win a smoldering ruin. Victor's life a thread in surgeons' hands. Jamal's scream a scar on their souls. Victor flatlined at 12:30. Or lights harsh. Doctors shouting, "Clear." Paddles jolting. Kesha's gasp unheard beyond glass. Jamal's small hands clutching her, "Daddy," a plea lost in beeps. The confessions blaze a cruel jest. Leonard shot a noose tightening. Hope bleeding out on a table stained red. News hit at 1. Carter critical. Grayson's bullet. X at 500,000 retweets. Protests raging, courthouse swarmed. Jail him, chance of thunder. Cops shrugging. Self-defense. Racism, a quiet kick. Leonard's smirk fading in his cell. The jets echo a chain he'd forged. His escape a trap. The Carters fight a flame flickering in blood. Kesha knelt at 2. Hospital floor cold. Jamal sobbing, he's gone. Her voice breaking. Victor's pulse flatline. Surgeon stepping back. The slap start a war ending here. Leonard's hate a tidal wave crashing there when a mirage torched by a bullet's flight. Nadia's files a lifeline now. The airstrips dawn a grave. His next blow a mystery they'd face without him. Hope a smoldering ruin in a city's rage. The Northwestern Hospital waiting room sat cold and sterile under a harsh noon glare. Its plastic chairs creaking as Kesha Carter slumped forward, her stitched scalp throbbing, blood still crusting her hands from Victor's chest wound. Jamal curled beside her, 8 years old and bruised, his small frame trembling with silent sobs, eyes swollen from crying, "Daddy," into the void. The flatlines beep a scar on his soul. Victor lay in surgery, surgeons battling a bullet Leonard Grayson had fired at the airstrip hours ago. His jet confession a fleeting wind torched by that shot. Kesha clutched Tony's burner files and her bar recording. Lila's hack still looping on Channel 7, Grayson confesses, at 600,000 retweets. Protests raging outside, a city's roar drowned by her grief. Nadia Price stood nearby, heels tapping, phone pressed to her ear. "He's critical," she whispered to a contact, her voice steel over despair. The airstrip's chaos a noose tightening. Leonard's cuffs downtown a hollow prize. At 1, surgeons emerged, scrubs blood-streaked, faces grim but steady. The lead doctor kneeling to Kesha. "He's alive," his voice soft. "Bullet missed his heart, nicked a lung. Stable now." Kesha gasped, tears spilling, pulling Jamal close. "He's okay, baby," her voice a thread, concussion pounding, but hope igniting. Victor's pulse a flicker. She clutched Jamal's small hands. Gripped, her daddy's coming back, his bruised ribs aching with each word. The slap. The kidnapping. The assault. The shot. Piling into this fragile dawn. Nadia grinned, fierce. "We've got more." Pulling a USB from her briefcase. Lila's jet feed synced with new audio, Leonard ordering Travis and them, time-stamped mid-flight. A second confession sealing his grave. Kesha stood, wincing. "ER," her voice a roar. Victor's survival a spark. Leonard shot a misfire he'd pay for. By 2, Channel 7 cut live. Carter survives. Grayson's second confession. Lila's hack blasting Leonard's, end them, across airwaves. X hitting 700,000 retweets. Grayson must fall, a global scream. Protests swelling to 20,000. Courthouse steps choked with fists and signs, "Justice for Jamal," a thunder-shaking glass. Kesha watched from the hospital, Jamal's head on her lap, TV blaring. Her bar recording and Tony's files a lifeline now. Nadia texting Lila, "Keep it looping." The jets echo a chain Leonard couldn't break. Downtown, Leonard sat in his precinct cell, concrete cold, suit torn, steel blue eyes glaring as a guard's radio replayed his voice, "End them." His smirk crumbling, cuffs biting. Allies silent. Harold Klein and Patricia Evans gone. The board mute. His jet a tomb. The technicality release a mirage torched by his own words. At 3, cops hauled Leonard to a secret tribunal, a basement courtroom beneath the courthouse. Oak table ringed by 3 judges in black robes. No gallery. No cameras. A shadow trial rigged by Nadia's pull and Victor's old allies. Judge Clara Henshaw presided, her silver hair pinned tight, voice flat. Leonard Grayson, conspiracy, kidnapping, assault, attempted murder, listing charges as he stood, cuffs clinking, his sneer fading. "This is illegal," he spat, but Clara's gavel banged. Sit. Her glare a blade. Nadia strode in, heels clicking, USB slamming the table. Jet feed. Bar audio. Bank trails. Her voice fierce. Lila's hack looping on a laptop. Leonard's, I slapped that kid, and end them, a noose tightening. The prosecutor, a wiry man from Victor's circle, piled on witnesses, Ray Dixon, Travis, CPS's Linda, all flipped, their plea deals a chain Leonard couldn't dodge. His allies' silence a grave he'd dug. Leonard's defense crumbled at 4. His lawyer, a sweaty clerk, stammering technicalities, but Clara cut him off. Enough. Her voice ice. The tribunal's verdict swift, guilty, all counts. Stripping his robes, his wealth, his name, sentencing him to life, no parole. His steel blue eyes wide. Carter's dead, a lie he clung to. The jet's confession a ghost in his ears. The airstrip shot a failure echoing. X hitting 800,000 retweets. Grayson convicted, trending. Protests roaring. His throne ash. The Carters went ablaze he couldn't snuff. Cops dragged him out at 4:30, cell cold, bourbon dreams torched. The tribunal a secret dagger. Victor's survival a slap he'd never outrun. At 6, Leonard sat in a max security cell, concrete gray, suit swapped for orange, steel blue eyes hollow. X buzzing beyond bars. Grayson convicted, at 1,000,000 retweets. Protests fading. His allies ghosts. Travis jailed. Ray vanished. The Sons of Liberty scattered. His jet a memory. The airstrip shot a chain he'd forged. Kesha's recording. Tony's files. Lila's hack. Jamal's testimony at the tribunal, a last-minute stand, staring Leonard down. You hit me, his small voice a blade, had flipped the system. His hate a tidal wave crashing back. Victor's barring a line he'd outlast. The Carter's triumph a fire he couldn't douse. Victor left the ICU at 7, wheelchair rolling, Kesha pushing, Jamal beside him. Hospital halls quiet. His lung healing, blood a memory on his shirt. The slaps echo. The firebombing. The kidnapping. The hit. The shot. All battles won. Leonard's life sentence a lock. Nadia's grin fierce. He's gone, her voice a victory bell. X trending, Carter rises, at 200,000 retweets. The city's pulse a cheer beyond walls. At 8, Victor stood in their living room, Bronzeville air warm. Jamal's drawing taped to the fridge. Kesha's arms around them. We're enough, she said, voice steady, concussion a dull ache. Their win a blaze lighting scars. Leonard's hate a smoldering ruin they'd outrun. At 9, Victor called a press conference from home, TV vans circling. His voice steady despite pain. I'm resigning to lead reform, a shock flipping the script. No child should fear justice. His hand on Jamal's shoulder. Kesha's eyes blazing. The slap start a movement now. Leonard's cuffs a spark. X hitting, Carter reforms, at 300,000 retweets. Protests shifting. Fix the system, signs rising. The tribunal's secret asset is barring a lie he'd rewrite. The city's roar a call he'd answer. Nadia nodded, I'll back you. Her briefcase closed. Tony's files a blueprint. Lila's hacker legacy. Jamal's small smile a fuel. Their triumph a fire burning bright. Leonard sat at 10, cell dark, steel blue eyes staring at concrete. X a whisper beyond bars. Carter reforms, at 400,000 retweets. His life sentence a noose he tied. The jet's confession. The airstrip's shot. The slaps echo a war he'd lost. Victor's voice on TV a ghost, no child should fear, a vow he'd live. Kesha's grit a blade he'd felt. Jamal's stare a chain he'd wear. The Carters when ablaze he couldn't snuff. His hate a tidal wave crashing back. The systems bend a grave he dug. Kesha stood at 11, Bronzeville night warm. Jamal asleep. Victor beside her, his wheelchair a temporary throne. "We did it," she said, voice raw. The slap starts. The firebombing. The kidnapping. The hit. The shot. All battles won. Leonard's cuffs a lock. They're drawing a beacon, my heroes, a truth they'd earned. The city's pulse a cheer beyond walls. Victor's reform a dawn they'd chase. Hope a fire in a storm of scars. Leonard's hate a smoldering ruin they'd outlast. This gripping tale unveils profound lessons about resilience, justice, and the fight against systemic racism. First, it shows that courage can turn victims into victors. Kesha Carter's relentless pursuit, from infiltrating Leonard Grayson's network to faking her death, proves one person's grit can topple a titan of hate. Her son Jamal's small but mighty testimony at the tribunal echoes this, teaching us that even the youngest voices can shift power. Second, the story exposes the fragility of corrupt systems. Leonard's wealth and allies bent rules, framing Victor with cocaine and snatching Jamal via CPS. Yet, truth clawed through, fueled by evidence and public outrage. It's a stark reminder that no shield of privilege is unbreakable when exposed to light. Third, it underscores the cost of justice. Victor's near death, Kesha's wounds, and Jamal's scars reveal that fighting racism demands sacrifice. Yet, their triumph, Leonard's life sentence and Victor's reform vow, shows the reward outweighs the pain. Finally, it highlights hope's persistence. Each blow, from the slap to the airstrip shooting, tested the Carters, but their unity and cunning flipped despair into a movement, proving that even in darkness, reform can rise. The takeaway: stand firm, gather proof, and wield your voice. Systemic wrongs crumble under sustained pressure. Victor's shift from judge to reformer challenges us to not just endure but reshape a flawed world. The fall of Leonard Grayson offers a fleeting sense of justice, but his corruption was merely a symptom of a deeper rot. Victor Carter's subsequent decision to resign from the bench signifies a crucial shift in the narrative. It acknowledges that true victory lies not only in punishing the guilty, but in transforming the very system that enabled their actions. This story is a challenge for all of us to examine the structures that perpetuate injustice, and commit to dismantling them from the ground up. To achieve genuine justice, retribution is not sufficient. We must strive to build enduring structures rooted in fairness, equity, and accountability. What will you do when faced with injustice? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Would you fight with the courage of Kesha or rally with the determination of Victor? Like and subscribe for more powerful tales of grit, justice, and the fight for what's right. Share this story to ignite change. Thank you for being a part of this journey. May you find the strength to confront your own battles and help create a fairer tomorrow.